I'm excited to introduce Marcela Dyer. Marcela is the founder and designer of the label Myriam Marcela. Her work is known for attention to detail, expert craftsmanship, and consciously sourced materials. She's originally from Monterrey, Mexico, and currently resides in Portland. As a Mexican designer living in the US, she has a passion for integrating creative talent among different cultures. And tonight she'll be speaking about these two pieces by Ronna Neuenschwander. A bit of a tongue twister. Please help me welcome.
Hello. First of all, thank you so much for being here, and thank you, Betsy, and the Portland Art Museum for inviting me. As you can see, my job was to research the museum and find a piece and an artist that will resonate with my work. So, of course, it was a super tough job. Every single piece, it's just amazing, and I went first to the European side, and of course I can create a whole collection out of it. And then, I don't know why I felt this drawn for the Pacific Northwest, which is this side of the museum, and I was stuck in the third floor. So many pieces that my heart just felt, connected. And then I thought, oh, I'm gonna go to the fourth floor. Because every time I go to a museum, you're so tired by the third, first, second, and then you're like, should I go? And your body says no, but your mind says yes. And so I came to the fourth floor, and I'm so glad I did. Because first of all, I never been, if I'm honest, to the fourth floor. And I just find amazing how different everything is in here. Every sculpture, everything is so unique, and it has so many different characters. So when I came across with this one, the Scorpion, by Ronna Neuenschwander, and this other piece, the name of this piece is then Muso, a young girl. First of all, I didn't know it was the same author and the same artist. So when I took a picture of this one, because it just for me it was amazing to see all this work put together on those pieces. And I took a picture of the artist, and then I took a picture of this one, and I took a picture of the artist. So then when I was at home trying to decide which piece I'm going to do, I noticed it was the same artist. So it was kind of like, I don't know, something that it calls my heart. So I interviewed Ronna, which was super nice. It was very interesting talk with her. And I found out so many good things that helped me as designer, as an artist, to see perspective and see through the eyes of someone, another artist. And that's actually why the Portland Art Museum have artists like me from different areas exploring artists, and I'm so happy to see here other artists too, like Maya here. And it's so cool how we all relate to each other and how we all inspire each other and how we can find things that caught our attention and how we can see so many aspects in our life and in our work. So I'm gonna tell you things about Ronna, which are super cool. So first, she was born in Kansas, a very small village, and she says that since she was little, she always had this passion for creating with her hands, because when she was little, her parents were very project-oriented, so they were always busy creating something, whether it's wood, gardening, bee keepers, something, so they didn't have time to be bored. And she was always fascinated by being busy and creating with her hands and drawing. And she said that that's why she had this in her. So then later, she studied major in math, and then she realized that it wasn't fun, and it wasn't the energy that she was looking for. So she decided to move to the art department, and boom, she says that it was just completely something that she loved. She was in pottery and sculpting, and then she said that it was part of the 70s when she was going on through all that, and she found a lot of inspiration from this movement of people getting back to nature. And I love that. I think that we all, at this point, we are all trying to find our way to nature again, how we can help the world, how we can help, the environment, and like how can be like a vision with our work. So I found that very cool. Besides, I love the 70s, even though the fashion, I think, is just amazing. Later, she said that because of happenstance, my husband is there like helping me with my Spanglish. She said that she ended up moving to Oregon because one of her friends was in Oregon, and she noticed that the Oregon State University had a program that she wanted to finish for college. So she moved to Oregon. Then she stayed for a summer job. And then later she thought, okay, what is the closest city here? And she noticed Portland. Okay, so she moved to Portland, and that's where everything started for her. So she still lives here. And I'll tell you. Okay, so I asked her, because for me as an artist researching another artist, I made the questions that for me it's more like curiosity, into my world. And one of them, I said, I noticed on the website, on websites and different articles about her, that she was part of a plane crash. And it was for me a bit shocking, to read that. And she mentions there that that changed her life, like completely. So I wanted to talk to her about that, and that experience. And she said it was like mid-20s when she was part of this airplane crash, and unfortunately some died, and she was out of it with just only scratches. So she considers herself completely lucky. But it was a wake-up call, because at that moment she was working for a Portland glass company, and she said, even though I love being surrounded by artists and I love my job, but I was behind a desk. And outside work, people will ask me, what do you do for a living? And even though my work was in an office, doing office job, I will say, I'm an artist. So that's the moment that with the accident, she said, you know what, I'm gonna quit, because she noticed that she wasn't using her talents. And that's another thing that gets in connection with me, that I am a big believer that talents, we all have them, whatever that is, and it's our job in this life to use them the best you can. And she noticed that she wasn't doing that, and that she was spending less time in her work, in her artwork, and more time in something that she didn't, enjoy as much. Also, just out of something in my heart, I asked her, and I said, how did you overcome flying? Was it something hard for you? And I learned something very powerful, that she said, I think it's all about perspective. She said at that moment, the Vietnam War was ending. And she mentioned how many individuals were suffering, and how many veterans were very hurt emotionally and physically. And she said, at that moment, for me, that was nothing. I mean, if you think about perspective, she said, I couldn't let myself think that it was the worst thing ever. So it was very powerful for me to hear that from her. And then I said, do you fly? And she said, yes, you just have to do it. And that's something that I learned also in life, that, whatever that is, just do it. And she said, yes, just keep doing it one more time, 1, 3, 4. By the 10, you will let it go. So it was super cool to hear, from someone that had, hi, come on in. Then there was another incident in her life that, for me, as artists, because this is all about how we can interact with each other in that world of artistic mind. And there is this other episode where she was traveling. She loves Africa, by the way. So all her artwork is inspired by Africa. Why? Because this trip that she did, she was going to Africa to research animals and to research more of culture, just to incorporate that in her work. And in one episode, she was traveling through the Sahara Desert, and the guide that was driving got lost. There wasn't iPhones or GPS, I guess, and they got completely lost. And she mentions that she recalls how, as an American, she was freaked out. She was like, what the heck is happening here? And then the guy said, okay, we're going to just sleep here in the desert, and we're going to, hopefully somebody will pass by tomorrow. She was just freaking out. And she said, wait, what? And the rest of the people that were locals, from Africa, they were so calm, and they were so trusting, and they just trust Allah. And she said it was like trying to vote myself out of control and just let it be and trust. So for me, it's also something that I can interpret in my work or in life in general, but it's so easy to get caught into the controlling and how you want things your own way, and that's something that my husband always mentions, evolve, and then she says, this experience just taught me how to let go. Just surrender and trust. And I think was finally after 2 days they found someone and they were able to go back to where they were going. But for me, it was amazing how life throws you things that will help you, become who you are, and you never stop changing or learning. Later she mentions that before that incident, she met her husband. And the funny thing is that when she reached out her hand to shake his, she just felt like bursting into tears. Why? I don't know. And then happened the 2-day lost thingy. So when she's back to the town, she's like, I need to talk to this guy. I mean, why? I felt this emotion. And after that, they're married, they had kids, and that's why she has this connection with Mali, Africa. And so I thought it was just completely inspiring, to incorporate that in her story. When I asked her, what inspires you? And then she says, Mali. She said, the thing is, living in the United States and knowing what I thought sophisticated was, and then going to a country in the other side of the world, completely different, and the contrast being that dramatic, she said, I felt like I was not allowing my eyes to see this beauty, this other world of detail, and this other world of so many other colors and experiences. And she says, she mentioned two, many other ones, but two that for me, I told her that it felt like traveling in time and being right there with her, is that she was walking through this town, and then you will find an architecture, a home, in the middle of nowhere, and then the front of the door and the front of the whole wall was covered with million handprints, like just millions of handprints all over. And you can just stay there and notice that they were all different. And I mean, what? She says, it's like, seriously? Where I was thinking. And then another experience that she recalls is, the locals invite her to a home because it was very hot that day. And they went to this home, and it was a completely pitch black room, but it was cool. It was very cool, and it was completely pitch black, and there was no electricity. It was all adobe. And then there is a time where the sun hits the house, and she noticed that there were a lot of holes in the wall, like the size of your fist. And first she noticed them, but she wasn't sure if there was something inside or what. But when the sun hit, it was like laser beams all across the house. She said it was like a magical moment, and she can keep going on and on with all these things that experience that just impact her work and the inspiration behind each thing. I also asked her about her favorite piece, material to work with. And she said the ceramic. Also metal. She said that no pieces here have metal, thin metal, but she says that that's something that she loves because it's very easy to manipulate and to cut patterns with and to have color, because she loves color. But other thing that she loves is ceramic. She says, I said I was curious to know if she goes to garage sale, because my work, I do a lot of vintage renewal, which is when I travel, when I get a chance, I go to a garage sale or to a thrift shop, a vintage shop, and I just look for fabric. I mean, I don't see the garment as a silhouette. I just see fabric, and then I completely take it apart and I make something new out of it. So I was wondering if she will just buy the whole pottery set and then crush it, or how, what was her process? And she says, nope. I walk through the towns, I found pieces, I save them, and then she travels back home here with a box full of them. She says so many times, guests from the museum will donate. So they will say, hey, I noticed this artist that she's a completely stranger. I get, donation. And another thing that I love about this process is that while I construct vintage pieces, I also think, like she does, and it's funny because I picked these without thinking, our connection, and it's so inspiring and passionate to know how we both think about the story behind. Were they precious? Were they a gift? Were used for a wedding? Did they, it's just so amazing for me to think about those questions while you work with something old. What else this is super cool. I asked her, what is most thing you love, the best thing that you love about Portland? And she said, they're all supportive, and it's true. They're all looking for how to, to introduction each other, and here is this one, here's connections. And she said, Portland is a big art community, and we are not competitive. And she says that she felt that ever since, and I feel it. And that's why I love Portland too. So it was so nice to hear that our Portland is that cool, to be honest. And then I asked her, what is your favorite thing about Mali? And she says, everything. Can't even pick one, everything. She also has, I think this is cool, that her husband and her opened this foundation called Co-Fallen, and they founded it in 2007. And the cool thing is that it's based in Mali, and the cool thing is that they bring West Coast artists to the area, and they can interact and share. She said it's so interesting to see them that they don't understand each other because the language is completely different, but the one thing that they have in common is art. And they just share, and they just, create something by the fuse of those two cultures. And as Mexican living here, for me, that's amazing. The more the merrier, whether it's Africa, Mexico, China, whatever, but the more it's just like joining minds and joining talent, and you just create amazing things. Her organization also helps kids from kindergarten to high school to help them with tuition. So I just think that if you can work and you can help on the way, why not? So I got so inspired by this woman. This is funny, but I asked her opinion on the word perfectionist. Because for me, I don't know if it's a curse or a talent, but I am a perfectionist. So I said to Ronna, Ronna, what do you think about the word perfectionist? And she's like, okay, so for me, there are two different things. Detail and perfection, they're different. Because my work is full of detail, but I am also super perfectionist, but just my work, I think. So she said, I pay a lot of attention to detail, and that doesn't mean it has to be perfect. So, that with the Timbuktu story is kind of, for me, a lesson of let go sometimes. So I love that about, she said that her mom was an alchemist, and it will drive her crazy that when she will cook, she will even get down into her knees to see if the cup was 3/4 of a cup with the water, because, chemistry and all those. And she will say, it will drive me crazy, so probably. So I wish one day I'll let go. Okay, so I asked her, I said, I'm going to have my kids there. And I said, if you have something powerful to say to young artists, or someone doesn't have to be young, but someone that's starting, someone that has that, desire of becoming, to just create whatever that is, whatever area you choose. And she said, keep creating. Don't think about people will like it. Don't think about if they're gonna accept you or not. Just keep creating. Another thing she said that I love, she said, money is extra. She said, the most valuable thing that you have when you keep creating and creating is that you are developing your talent, and that's being fortunate enough. So I think that was, because so many times you get caught into, being accepted, or if it's gonna be in interest, or, and she said, just keep doing it, just keep swimming, almost like that. But it's amazing, someone that has gone through more experience. Then I said, have you ever thought about giving up? And she said, are you kidding me? How could I? I'm an artist. I love that. She said, this is super cool, because she said that she considers herself a creative. So if a door closes or an opportunity closes, she said, I am the creator, so I can use my creativity as an outlet, which is so true. You can choose to just shut down that creativity outlet or just keep spreading like water. So now I want to talk to you about these pieces, the story, because what is amazing for me is how different it is from when you as a viewer walk to a museum and you interpret the piece by yourself, or trying to think what was the artist thinking. Well, this one, Scorpion, one of her times in Mali, her husband comes from a very poor family, because that part of Africa, it's considered one of the fourth more, poor communities. And she said that her mother-in-law, it comes from a family that was very poor, and when they got married, they find ways to help and build this place. And anyway, so long story short, one day in that beautiful place where there were kids running and everything, they found a scorpion. And of course the kids, right away, trying to grab a rock or trying to find a stick so they can kill it. And then the mother-in-law came out running and said, no, you don't kill anything. So I love that. And she said that it was so powerful to watch these women, her mother-in-law, she grabbed the scorpion by the tail with an object, I'm not sure which one, pinned the tail to the floor, cut the sting out, and let go and say, go, 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 never kill anything. She said that how important it is to learn that it has power over you, you have power over him, but you guys can live together. And it was just so this represents and honors her mother-in-law. And now you can see, it has a face of a lady and this powerful, isn't it so cool? A scorpion, and then all this tender and delicacy with the ceramic and every single bit, and then the porcupine, how do you call those? Needles, yes, as protection, as a defender, it's so cool how you don't hurt any living creature. It was so nice. Then this one over here, this is older, 1986. And she said that it was from her first visits to Mali, and it was so shocking for her to see little kids with big bellies and showing their rib cages. And also, now that I noticed today that I came back, and I noticed that it does have an object in the back, and that represents the responsibility that little kids have at a young age, 6 years old, and they're carrying their siblings in their bags or taking care. And my husband and I, and you, Veronica, will feel, and Sofia in Mexico, it happens a lot that you see these kids that are so young and they're very responsible for these younger siblings or younger family members. And then another interesting side of this piece is that hunger, it's a big thing there, and they all eat with their right hand. And if they find a spoon, it's considered like a treasure, because they don't have spoons. And the name of the spoon in African, I don't know how to even pronounce it, but it means the white man's spoon. So this is all, spoons representing that contrast of, two countries and two opposite sides. And her vision was to, her artwork was to, because I asked her and she said, I want to inspire or to, to start a conversation. Like, why? She said, why? What can I do? What can we do? Either it's a conversation inside of you, is it a community conversation, and how can we help each other? And, these are limbs of branches and the spoons, and, it's representing a girl, and that tragic and hurtful moment that she experienced every time she goes. She says that as soon as she steps out of the plane, she always feels like bursting into tears in that town, but in a passionate way, and she feels like what I experienced by her talk was like feeling home and feeling inspired, but at the same time feeling the need of sharing that part of the world with us, and how can we help everybody? It doesn't matter where you are. So that's what I have for you, and I hope you now love more these pieces that have a story, and I think it's a pretty interesting one. You guys have any questions? Yes?
Why did it caught your attention? What was it?
For me, this whole floor and these pieces, I am a lover for reusing and repurposing. So it caught my attention because of that. How can you find an object and then turn it into a piece of art? And for me, it was very noticeable, the spoons. And then this one was noticeable, the ceramic and the pattern and the detail and every single piece of it. So it has to do with that repurposing side of it.
And when you're creating with the idea that somebody will take that and put it on and use it again, yeah?
Of course, that line that I have, I see it as a piece of art. So as just the same as you walk into the museum and seeing a piece hanging in the wall and you fall in love and you say, I want it, and you buy it, and it fits in your heart and it fits in your home. For me, that's that vintage Renewal line. It is becoming one-of-a-kind piece, and sometimes I try to make it sizes that the fabric allows me to, and it finds owners, those people that it just fits and just fall in love. And of course, I have the other lines that are from Bolso fabrics or for, more limited edition, but that line is my favorite because of that. It challenges me. It's like you're limited, so it just push you to get out of your comfort zone and reuse what you have and find new ways to use that material.
And what does perfectionist mean to you? I mean, I think frequently we put the
Oh my gosh.
based on how we're taught or how we're valuing somebody else's work. So what does it mean for you?
No, it's just for me. I went to school, and my teacher, my sewing teacher, will send me back to redo a zipper or to redo a seam or to redo anything that was crooked or it wasn't good. And she was always impeccable, and she was this older lady and funny, but she will not let you do one crooked stitch or something that looks lazy, always send you back. So then I worked also at Pendleton Woolen Mills as a prototype sewer once, and for me it was like school too, because it was everything perfect, how many stitches per inch, and the plaid has to match completely. So it's like my what I learned. So now my work, I can sleep if one stitch is not perfect.
So what about the idea of distressing fabrics? I mean, there's a big trend in distressing fabrics, so the imperfection becomes part of the perfection.
Well, the thing is, a piece that I found, like the vintage pieces, I completely take it apart. And I avoid flaws, and I avoid a tear, or I avoid, a little hole that happened because of the age of the piece. So then I work around it, and then I completely take it apart. So it ended up being like a new piece of material that is flat. So when I construct it again, I make sure that if you look at it inside and out, you won't find anything that then I'll be saying, yes, that's not correct, like my teacher. Yes, so that's, I said, I don't know if it's a talent or a curse, but I do have it.
Do you ever want to give up?
What?
Sometimes do you want to
Give up? Yes. Not giving up, because it's kind of like she said, how can you give up to something that you love so much? I mean, you just can't. It's like giving up chocolate. I just can't. So I'm not even thinking. But I do cry many, many times. Especially, my husband knows those stories. And it's nice to have a support system, whether it's your friend, your husband, your mom, your neighbor, whoever, that says, get up, you can do this. And then, new day, new sun, and you can do it. But there are times that I felt like just crying out loud, and but not laughing. And then, but like giving up, it's hard. I mean, like she said, how? There's nothing else I can see myself doing than this that I love so much.
You were involved with that group that was doing factories out of completely recycled materials?
I don't know.
The junk to funk crowd,
Oh, no, I wasn't part of it, but I love Portland because of that. I mean, we are all very conscious about our work and how we can help each other, how can we help the environment, and I am hoping that I can educate my beautiful Mexico in that matter, because if I am polite or if I am caring for the earth, I learn it here. My dad drives him crazy when I go to Mexico because I let everybody pass in the road. And I'm driving, and he's like, no! No! And I'm like, yeah, go. And then somebody else go. He's like, you're never going to go if you keep doing this. And I said, Dad, I'm from Portland. Well, for 16 years, so it's something. And 2 boys there and another one in college, so. Yeah, any more questions?
Where was the artist born? Where did she grow up?
She was born in Kansas, and she grew up in a small village, she called it like that, in Kansas, and then she went to university there, and then she moved to Corvallis, to the Oregon State University, and then Portland.
So when you buy your fabric in the bolts, where do you like to shop?
Well, since we are so many now here in Portland, I usually now shop online, or I travel to Mexico or LA, or I order from New York, because it happens that since we're so many designers, then you ended up having a runway with 3 the same fabric. Yeah, but it's fun. The process is super fun.
Do you have where do you sell your work?
I have a studio here in Portland, and most of my clients go there, and I create. What I love the most about my work is creating a custom piece besides the vintage, like personal. I get to meet you, I get to know you, what you like, I get to see your shape, and I get to design something to flatter you. Because so many times when I have a pop-up and customers come and they're like, oh no, I can't fit in that, and I say, I know, this is a sample. I will make it to your lengths and to your waist and everything, so you look the best, and they all do. And it's so fun. When I cry, that I mentioned, is because I ended up doing myself the small, medium, and large for a boutique. And that's not fun, because it's not personal. I don't get to see you, I don't get to see who's gonna buy it, and it becomes something that I don't enjoy. And then I cry, and then I said to my husband, why? And he's like, baby, it's all the time. Stop doing the boutique thing. And I say, no, I am gonna, because I have a friend here in front of me that he's texting or doing something. And he wants a jacket, and then my husband in the back that wants something else too. So it's funny, because I was mentioning him that I saw a designer that just showed out on New York Fashion Week, and she designs for men. And I was looking at the gallery of her work, and it was amazing. And then I for a moment, I thought to put my brain into the men section, and I couldn't. I just love women. I just love creating things for women. But I do see button-down shirts with cool patterns and one of a kind. I do see bow ties and a jacket for my husband one day. But yeah, one day when I have more hands, Yeah, I will. This is something else that I learned from Arana, because I asked her, I said, do you get any help? You know, sometimes big artists also, they have somebody that do the waxing, or they do the rough, and then they come and polish, you know, and she said, nope. She said, I can't, because I need to see my own, you know, and the balance and test everything, and they don't have and that happens to me too. I found the other day someone that says, you do everything with your own hands? And I say, yeah. And they're like, what? Why don't you have somebody to cut? And I said, well, sometimes the fabric has pattern, and I need to put it in the mannequin and see to balance the print and then to match it here. And it's hard to explain that to somebody else that is not inside of my head. And then she said, well, at least pattern making. And I said, no, because then I make the line and I have to step back and see the line, and then I have to. They're like, oh my gosh, you're completely lost. But yeah, you know, for me it's hard what I do. It's I don't do it like my husband always inspires me to not do it for the money, just for my passion, and that's what I keep doing. You know, I deliver what is in my heart and my inspiration, and then I find beautiful women that wants to wear it, and that makes me extremely happy. Yes.
What are there elements of your work that you feel especially proud of that are distinctly Mexican or that bring forward your Mexican culture?
Well, in Mexico, we have a lot of, like I grew up, in my school, there was a class for sewing, like at school. That was one subject, like humanities, it was sewing. And it was my favorite, and I think Mexico has a lot of handwork detail, and that's my favorite. The more I can grab a needle with my hands and not being in the machine, I can spend hours and hours and hours doing things by hand, and that's where most happy I am. And I think that I got that from my grandmother and my aunts and my mom, you know, and all that Mexican, you know, and you go to Mexico and you find all these artisans that they do everything by hand, and they're selling everything, and they don't need nothing, powder, electricity, just a needle and thread. And they're doing it, and I can do that. I love that. And of course, color. It's hard for me to see, and here's another artist that Maya right here, she uses a lot of color, and I love color. For me, seeing black and white will be kind of like wasting my culture. And so I always try, and I love funky, and I love to mix and match prints, and I think I got that from my Mexican culture. Yes.
What do you think it makes you different from other designers? I think I know the answer.
I'm Mexican.
Besides, when you were saying the passion for your work, some people maybe they do it for.
Exactly, probably. I mean, it's there's no right or wrong. You know, whatever makes you happy, do it. And if it makes you happy to have a bunch of money and make pillowcases, then do it. But like Ronna said, it will be a waste of my talent if you keep doing something that is not passionate to you. And I think people can sense that when you know, that's why I love being with the customer, because then it's more personal, and you can share that love for your work, and they can see it, and it's just fun. But I'm Mexican, so. Anybody else? There's drinks and food, right?
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.